polarized. It's not just you. Your online interactions are shaping your beliefs in ways you can't imagine, making it harder than ever for you to discern fact from fiction. This video and this podcast dives deep into how digital platforms are subtly, yet profoundly, altering our understanding of reality and why that should alarm us all. Welcome back to Educational Warfare. I'm Dr. Jordan Lauer, alongside my co-host, the one and only Blake Bellamy. Thank you for being here, Blake. Some quick program reminders. Make sure to follow us on all of our socials. We're at EDU Warfare on X and Dr. Jordan Lauer on Blue Sky. Don't forget our full video podcasts and episodes on YouTube, on our channel Educational Warfare. Please subscribe, hit that like button so you can catch all of our new shows and episodes and shorts as they drop. And you can always email to share your thoughts and strategies, any ideas you have about disinformation, misinformation. Please don't send us any disinformation because that'd be confusing. Our email, you can talk to us about all of that on educationalwarfare.pod@gmail.com. And once again, we'll be talking about some of the strategies there. You can also grab my newest book, The Two Backpacks, Understanding Teens and What They Carry, on Amazon. Let your friends and family know. Anybody who has a teenager in their realm or close, or if you have a teenager in your family you want to get closer to, check that out. Lots of good ideas, lots of strategies, just a way to better understand the people that are in our lives so we can have better relationships, so we can have one less slam door, one less eye roll, and that's what this is all about. You can also find the book and some of the information on it, as well as my blog on jordanlauer.com. So today we're asking this question. What if everything you believed, every fact you consumed online, was a carefully constructed illusion? What if the digital world isn't just influencing your reality, but actively rewriting it? Prepare to have your perception shattered as we uncover and break down disinformation. This is Disinformation Nation, Lies, and the Cost of Your Scroll. What's up, Blake? How are you doing today?
Good, man. I'm excited to be here, man. This is a topic that I've been really looking forward to for an episode, so I'm ready to roll, man. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's one that to me is just front and center, just paramount in our discourse for today. And this is one that goes outside of, we are educational warfare. We try to talk about things with teachers, and we'll be funneling it through that. But this is something that is a 21st century problem. Let's go ahead and call it that, right? A 21st century problem that all of us, every single person, I don't care what your career path is, I don't care if you have kids, don't have kids, even know where the school in your town is, this is something that affects schools, teachers, parents, and all of us. I think it's very important. I think the important thing here is to define. Let's understand what we're talking about first. There's two different things here. The first is misinformation, right? I always go back to Roger Clemens saying he misremembered in the when they were talking about baseball and steroids. If you remember the congressional hearings, Roger Clemens, I misremembered those facts. And Mark McGuire, I think, said a similar thing. So there's first misinformation, which misinformation is defined as information that is either factually incorrect or contradicts the best available expert consensus, evidence, or independent of sharing intentions. This is just when you have something that's wrong, right? The motivations behind it being wrong are there, but it's just wrong compared to what all the empirical evidence is saying. The other one, the more malicious cousin of that, I guess you could say, is disinformation. And this, where on the other hand, as opposed to misinformation, this involves the deliberate spread of false information with the aim of deceiving, harming certain groups, individuals, or causing socio-political instability. And those are according to a journal by Folkvord et al. In 2022. So those are pretty up-to-date idea of those two topics. What is just your initial thoughts, your initial ideas on dis and misinformation?
So, kind of like with misinformation, I feel like people always kind of group those two together, especially always around like election seasons and things like that. And there is a huge distinction. And kind of like what you said, there needs to be some kind of malicious or nefarious ways. So with misinformation, I don't get caught up with that one too much because I feel like someone's just mistaking. I tend to think like the better in people. If someone says, I'm not a hockey fan, it's probably the least sport I keep up with. And if I heard the Preds won, I'd be like, oh, so I see someone with the Preds shirt on, I'm like, oh, congrats on the win. They're like, we lost today. I'm like, oops, sorry. Didn't mean to spread misinformation, but I think that was just an accidental thing that happened. Now, disinformation, there has to be some kind of nefarious actors going on, where they're trying to spread some kind of agenda. They're trying to say something to sway public opinion. And that's when you see, generally speaking, the online aspect of it, whose disinformation oftentimes going to hurt the most. It's going to be those young people that are 14, 15 years old on social media, that if they see something, it's real. and also the old people. You know, our elders are the ones that generally vote. They're kind of used to, if they ever see something on cable network back in the day when it was just ABC, CBS, Fox, CNN, if they see that on TV, it's real. Even publications, New York Times, Washington Post, all those big papers, the Chronicle in San Francisco, people, they would believe that. Now you do see a lot of disinformation on all of those platforms, especially the internet, when you and I can go on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff and just say something totally batcrap crazy, where we're trying to spread our own agenda, trying to influence people's minds, and trying to get some kind of reaction out of others. And I think it's usually pretty bad stuff. Disinformation, it's wrong. It's immorally wrong, trying to hurt others, kind of like brain rot. Should it be illegal? Doubt it. We do have that First Amendment, freedom of speech. There's a lot of things that are frowned upon and wrong. Should it be illegal? I don't know. That's a whole other conversation. But I do think it's important that you did bring that up, the distinction between the two definitions. Misinformation, I generally think that happens by mistake. Disinformation, I think that's more malicious and nefarious and has some kind of ill intent toward it. Used to cause harm, not physically, but mentally and developmentally, for sure.
And I love the point you made.
So I kind of went on a monologue with that, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
No, it's great. I mean, because it's a good breakdown of it. Because like talking about, I love you mentioned older people, because I mention that to students all the time. That I always tell them, your grandparents, maybe even your parents, they may be coming to you with the stuff they find on social media platforms, and you might be like, why are you even believing that? But it is important to understand that why do the older generations, and again, those are the generations, like you said, who vote. Those are the people showing up consistently. So when we're talking about even miss or dis, right? Like right now in the same thing, they're more susceptible to it because in the past, when they found something, when they consumed some form of media, it was trustworthy. I mean, when Walter Cronkite said something, that was it. That was the end of the discussion. And that's the way it was. You know, like that literally, that was the end of it. You know, newspapers the same way. So when they see something well formatted online that may look like an online newspaper or a digital version of that, they almost automatically believe it because they don't have the media savvy and that internet savvy that we hopefully, or that we're trying to instill in our students, that we're trying to instill in ourselves. So that's why a lot of them fall for it so easily. My mother-in-law will just kind of say, you know, on Facebook, and I'm like, oh boy. Because again, when I see something on Facebook, and my dad does this too. I'm not just going to pick on my mother-in-law. My dad mostly does with sports because that is the media my father consumes. He'll send me these, videos that'll be like, this giant trade happened for the Bears. Big Bears fans right there in the chair behind me. So he'll like say that, and he'll be like, is this real? And I'm sitting there like, all right, let me go check Adam Schefter. Nope. And Rappaport. Nope. I'm like, no, it's not. And he's like, well, I just watched a 15-minute video. I was like, yeah, at any point did you not realize most of that was like, I never really said anything. But when they see a well-formatted news thing, that's to them, like, that's always been reliable. In today's age, it's not. And I think that's a great juxtaposition to kind of put here is you have those who believe it because media has been trustworthy and are young people who now don't know what's trustworthy. Even established media is attacked for this by either political side or whatever view you have. So they're going from a place of, I don't trust anything. So I think that's a fascinating way to look at it. And it is really interesting. We talk about misinformation or different information. Why don't we spot that easier? Well, Vasaugi in 2018 et al. Found that false information spreads faster and more widely than accurate information on social media platforms. Why? The idea here is that because it's more interesting. Sometimes the truth is not exciting, but you know what? Misinformation you can make up about it is. What do you think about that? Like, what's your kind of take on it spreading faster than regular?
But you kind of answered that. I mean, it's a lot more interesting. I can make up a lie right now. It's going to make so many headlines. Yeah, if there was a giant trade, like, if someone told me that Patrick Mahomes got traded to the Chargers for Justin Herbert, that's going to, if I shared that, just a meme that looked real, it had Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter there, that somebody's going to share that immediately. And someone else is going to share that immediately. And it kind of causes a cascade. And I do think it's funny that sports is really the only media that we can find the objective truth for. Because if somebody said that there was a trade, I can go on NFL.com, NBA.com, and see if that was true or not. Whether it's policy, because I'm going to be honest with you, we pass all these laws, everyone talks about it forever and ever. How many people, the population, actually reads the entire bill passed by Congress? Almost nobody. These congressmen don't even read them.
No.
So that leaves open for the narrative for like your CNNs, your Foxes, even I mean the world we're in now, just all these YouTube journalists that go on there and just really pick and choose what they want to talk about. It's kind of like Clinton's line item veto. It's like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. And you can do that. You can spin some kind of narrative. You can look at the exact same bill, find something on the left, find something on the right, and then completely change the aspect of it. Or just kind of omit. And omitting is kind of like lying in itself. And that is a way of having some kind of disinformation, because if I'm omitting key facts, I'm trying to sway somebody's opinion, whether that is like the better teaching methods or better politics or whatever. You can make up so many things or omit certain things. You can drive a narrative for everything. I can take one thing out of a giant omnibus bill and then make this tiny little thing, blow it up and make that the focal point when it's probably just maybe 2 sentences in an entire bill. So it's a lot more interesting. You can just say basically anything. Just pick and choose what you want, drive an entire narrative, and if you are somebody that has thousands and thousands, if not millions of followers, people are going to eat that up, especially like the younger people and the older people, because they're going to say that. My mom, she's in her 60s. She tells me things all the time. I believe almost none of it until I look it up, because she will see some random thing shared on Facebook, like, can you believe we're going to war with China today? I'm like, I feel like I would have heard about that
Yeah, I feel
from
like
more
that
than
may
just a
have
random Facebook page.
crossed my reference points at
And
some point.
like, I'm not saying I'm smarter than my mom. She's way smarter than I am, especially the life experiences and everything. But I definitely think I'm a little bit wiser when it comes to things I see and hear and read. Because I believe almost nothing. I'm probably the most negative human being in the world when it comes to news. People always ask me for opinions on things. I'm like, we'll wait and see, which is not great for a podcast. But I'm very much a wait and see person, just because I generally try not to judge to conclusions, because I generally think everyone's always lying to me at all times. If I see something on Fox, I see something on CNN, I generally try to watch both of them. Whatever facts are common, that's probably the truth. And that's probably my best advice to give people. Watch CNN, watch Fox. The truth is somewhere in the middle. Ignore the I thinks, I believe, this person should, that person should. Focus on the facts. What is factually there, and then make your own opinion based off of that.
Yeah, Blake didn't even think, he still doesn't trust that this podcast is actually happening until it actually posts. So he's just sitting there wondering if I'm just recording us to the device until it actually posts. Yeah, well, and I
thought this was therapy.
Just a little venting. Hey, it works for that too. We're in the trust tree in the nest. You're safe here. We're all safe here. So, educationalwarfare.pod@gmail.com. You're safe in the trust tree in the nest. Shoot us an email. We won't call you out. If it's a weird one, you're fine. Yeah, I do love how you kind of put that as another juxtaposition. Yeah, the weird ones are fun. Like, I like reading through the weird ones. I have a couple of weird ones for the past year, and it's been fun. It's interesting way to think of things. I like how you made another juxtaposition. You did old versus young, and then you did the types of information where it is completely understandable and common practice, as me with my father, and anybody really. We dig into, when we think we find fake sports news, we go a digging. But when it's political, when it's like really factual, we listen to what our team is saying. Whatever political side you fall on, a lot of people don't do a lot of digging. It is like, yeah, that's what they think. I think that too. It's very interesting, that different perspective. Because even if a well-respected Bears blogger, vlogger, podcaster that I followed said something like, hey, they're trading for Myles Garrett, I wouldn't be like, woo, and go online and find a Bears Myles Garrett jersey. I'd be searching the reputable people. But when it's some rando person saying something online, people just run with like, I can't believe this is happening. Oh, how is this? America's gone.
Dr. Jordan.
And it's like, whoa, you found that from one person, and his sources were, trust me, bro. That's all it was. So it's a scary thing that kind of happens there. And that kind of leads us into, this is the attention economy. Why is it followed more closely? It's because platforms profit from outrage and clicks. I mean, that is where they get their money from. It was clicks. And that, we all know the term clickbait. It is a part of our vernacular now, of kind of our zeitgeist for society. But they understand that even if it's a relatively false, we all have seen those false headlines, Justin Herbert going through conflict with new coaching staff. And so you read that like, oh no, is Harbaugh already rubbing Herbert the wrong way? And then you read it, it's they told him to change how he takes the snap. They want him under center more. That's not conflict. That's a coaching request, and he's not bucking it. So yes, it's different than the past, but it's not, oh my gosh. But they put those headlines there because a lot of people see that, trust the source, and retweet it. Now it's gone. It's growing exponentially. So part of the attention economy there's this actually scientific term, which is the uses and gratification theory. So this is actually a psychological basis for a lot of our behavior online. And the uses and gratification theory, UGT, provides a crucial framework for understanding why and how. And this kind of goes more towards adolescence, which educational warfare, that's our clientele, so we can upscale that for adults. But towards why adolescents engage with social media content and in misleading information. And it basically says that human beings, especially adolescents with their undeveloped frontal lobe, as I talk about a lot in the two backpacks, it basically says that we choose these things because of our needs and gratifications that we're looking for. The things that we want to hear. And that is just, to me, that is the political spectrum as a whole. Like, you see something, I hate this or I hate this, and that's a thing you consume. When there's talk of conciliation and working together and collaboration, people don't click on those. They don't read those. So they go to the Dem said this, Republican said this, and they read that when the underlying factor is no, they said those things, but then they did meet. But nobody reads the Republicans and Democrats met and had a good meeting. Not interesting, not part of the UGT. And the important thing with that, trying to get Blake back, is once you're in that, you struggle to find your way out of it because you can keep self-fulfilling that prophecy of the things you want to hear and the things you need to hear. So you're looking for this, all of a sudden it is, boom, there for you. It's a difficult thing. Like, now you've gotten exactly what you wanted. You wanted to be angry at something, boom, there it is. There's your anger. And that anger really, really can focus on certain things. The common ground, it erodes that. Like, if you're only looking at what you want to see, when somebody does make a good point, you lose that common ground. This idea of that, like, it is there, everybody's trying to work for all of us, but we're just kind of dealing with it, has kind of gone away over the last couple of years. And I think that's an important part to note too, that we just are in this malaise. Again, this, well, I can't trust your side because that's your side, but I'll wait and see if my side says it, and then we can talk. And it's gone that far, and it is very disheartening. Anyway, so, like, what do you think about people being able to just kind of pick and choose based on their feelings and being able to ignore something that goes against that? Talking about, for example, if I want something where the Republicans come out and hit the Democrats, or something on education where this is this person saying why it's bad, as opposed to another story saying that they met and had a really good conversation. How do you think that's harmful to people today? And how do you think it's harmful to our discourse?
I think it really hurts people's general ability to think for themselves. I think it's really hard to see the other side because nobody's always going to be right on anything. It has nothing to do with even politics. I think it's a very basic part of our social fabric that is kind of decaying. Because if we're stuck in an echo chamber, we only want to hear things that reinforce what I believe. That's boring. It's like hanging around with people that always think the exact same as you. It's good to have friends that are, if you're super religious, it's good to have atheist friends. If you're a very big Christian, it's good to have Hindu friends or Islamic friends. If you're not a sports fan, it's good to have friends that are sports fans. So it's good to be like that. You should be able to talk to people. And I feel like now people are so antisocial. They live online, and that's not a good way to live. I feel like you and I are we got lucky, man. I think if I was born any earlier, 5-10 years earlier, I think I would have been kind of wrecked. Because I think I'm kind of like the last age group of people that actually know how to speak to somebody that's different than them and speak in person and not afraid to say something. If one of my friends says something that I'm like, that's completely wrong, I will call them out on that. Or I'll be like, why do you think like that? I think people now, they're just kind of with the echo chambers and with being able to pick and choose what you want to hear and see and consume. I think it really harms people. I think it really does a lot deeper things socially to you. I don't think people can converse as well. I mean, just being a teacher, there's so many antisocial kids that I just think that they didn't grow up with the skill. I think they live online and they only want to hear things that reinforce their beliefs and their thoughts. And that's dangerous because give us more decades of this and no one's going to know how to speak to people. Like, what do I do with my hands? I said it last time because it's kind of the same thing. Everyone's going to be Ricky Bobby pretty soon. And that's not good for humanity, especially just with every young person just living online and social media and being able to have your algorithm tell you what you want to see and what you want to do. It's just scary. It's sad. It's really sad to see.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, one thing I'm looking into for the sequel to the two backpacks understanding teens what they carry, is we're going into AI. I mentioned social media in the beginning, but AI is a big part of this. And going into that, it's important to understand that the teens, especially, these feeds creates, like you mentioned, this echo chamber. These feeds they're cultivated because they want clicks, and the things that get clicks from adolescents especially are dangerous. It is fight, it's division, it's those base part of us. That's why I have a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old boys, and they're always like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, yeah, it's not really cool. It's a guy trying to chase after a guy who robbed him, and he gets drugged behind the dude's truck for 2 blocks. That's not cool. To them it is, because their brain's kind of in that aggressive mode. So I'm like, no, not cool. But that's when you're a teen. These websites, the way we have to remember that social media and a lot of those things, they are still businesses. And I think that's what people forget. They act so much as services, right? Oh, they give me information. I get on X and I get jokes from comedians, sports news, politics, stuff for authors, tips. And I'm like, yeah, this is a service. It's not. It's still a business, and it's trying to drive clicks. So the algorithm once you get started down that path and you go down the road of disinformation, it becomes a self-fulfilling, just this loop of, this is where I reside now. And that is why it's so hard to break out of. You have people who listen to Fox News only or MSNBC only. They have a different view than a person, like you said, who dabbles in both. And social media is exactly like that. It knows what you want. I mean, look at my wife likes, it makes her smile, funny cat videos, right? You know, like it makes her laugh, and I'm her husband. So like my number one goal is to make her laugh. As a guy, and guys listening to this, we're the trust tree in the nest. We don't offer much, right? Women really don't need us. They got this all under control. So like making my wife laugh it's what I can provide. So I, look at some funny TikTok cat videos, and before you know it, my feed is all funny cat videos. And that's just me searching up, trying to get a giggle out of her. Imagine somebody who's hardcore trying to find this one viewpoint. You literally start to live in that echo chamber, and that is dangerous, because once you're in that, everybody else is wrong, and we're seeing that. I mean, just anybody out there, even if you're not an X person, go on X, find a political topic, click it, and read the comments. It can be the most straight up thing, regardless of party. This party person did this wrong. And there's still people on there like, you're delusional, just making up fake news. And you're sitting there like, these are facts, man. This isn't just some opinion guy. They read the law. They said the court cases, what's happening. And that is a very scary thing to me, because that polarization leads to no reconciliation. Have you seen that at any point, just in personal life or in our students at all?
All the time. Especially teaching like AP government. It's really hard to kind of navigate when people ask me questions. And a lot of times I try not to, as bad as it's going to sound, I try not to answer some of those. Especially if they're very political. I basically, sometimes they'll say things are just totally wrong. It'll just be a total just wrong story. I'm like, that's actually not what the bill says whatsoever. That is just a headline, and that's not true. But I usually kind of tell them, so there's a quote that probably one of the best teachers in high school I've ever had in my life. So my high school was a really big one. You basically chose majors, and you had a pathway, whatever. And I was criminal justice. I wanted to do FBI, DEA eventually in my life. I ended up going teaching route, whatever. But
same thing.
The criminal justice 3 class. Exactly. He was a homicide detective in Chicago, so your part's town. Mm. He was so numb to everything. And I cannot remember where we got off on a conversation. We were talking about the news with something. I don't even remember, but I remember this quote. He says, I don't believe anything that I hear and only half of what I see. Because one thing I really love, and that kind of resonated with me, whenever you hear things, whenever you read things, it's really coming from the source. You're judging by what somebody else has consumed and then giving their interpretation on what it is. And then what always kind of got everybody when he said that, I only believe half of what I see. Because whenever you're seeing something, especially if it's a video, you might only see a 10-second clip. You may not see what happened before that or what happened after that. And the media can really construe things to totally drive some kind of narrative. And that's where, again, we're getting that disinformation from. If I see somebody just attacking somebody and I only see the attack, what if the attack was this person just tried to kidnap my daughter and they're trying to get that kid back or something like that? Oh, that totally changes the entire story completely. Mm-hmm. One is from just attacking to defense. And that is a huge difference. And that is kind of scary. So with life, it's just really trying to keep in the narrative. And then when school happens, I usually try to tell them, my best advice, I always say, find a story, read CNN, read Fox, and then find something in the middle, which is what I said a minute ago. And that's usually my best advice, and that's really the best advice I can give, because you have to find the facts. Opinions, you know what they say about opinions, everyone's got one. And I generally don't care about opinions, especially the opinions of high schoolers. I generally don't care about what they think about politics, because they're just kind of starting out. A lot of them don't know anything. They're usually just repeating whatever their family or TikTok tells them. So I just try to tell them, try to find the truth, try to find a reliable source. And that kind of gets to what is reliable, what is not reliable. And that is a whole other ballgame of how to actually find reliable sources. I don't think CNN's a reliable source. I don't think Fox is a reliable source. If you look at their businesses, they're both entertainment industries and not actually news outlets. I think the best data you could find is like real quantitative statistics. You have to find numbers and then kind of interpret it through numbers, I guess, because it's really hard. It's really hard to kind of navigate through all this nonsense. That's why I think I'm so negative. I've seen so much of it. I'm so numb to what's real, what's not real. I just try to live and try to avoid all of that nonsense and chaos.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of two different Orwell quotes. You know, basically the first is from 1984, so an important one, and not going too dystopian here, but just we can kind of see this not exactly from the actual government, but just from social media in general as an umbrella over everything. Every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten. Even every picture has been reprinted, every statue and street building has been renamed, every date has been altered, and the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. And that really is, that's social media now. It's not the government doing it. But literally, you can have almost any fact. I mean, there's some of the stuff I've seen on X re-adjudicated by people. Just maybe this wasn't this way. I'm like, no, it's that way. It's been solved. That we have so much evidence. Why are we spending time? They're like, well, I think that it could have been. And that's exactly, so you can, again, talking about that echo chamber, you can get in that to where this exact quote is happening to you. Not as subversive as the government doing it to you specifically, but still it happened to you. And if it happens to the individual, it then can happen to multiple individuals because we spread that within our circles. You know, and that's a scary thing. You know, and the other one, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. That's another Orwell quote. And I think those are super powerful. When you really look at that, what are we talking about here? It is this idea that what I want to believe is happening and what I can, and you can find basis of that. Where before, and I tell my students this, I'm like, look, there were always people who talked bad about the government, who talked bad about schools, who talked bad about this, but they were that loud guy in the bar or that loud guy at the hardware store. And if you wanted to listen to him, you could saunter on over and listen and be in his little court. If you didn't, you just pay and leave. But now that person can yell it into the social media world and find followers and gain momentum. So that loud person isn't just, oh, well, there goes Tom again. He's had too many beers talking about how the government's made up, blah, blah, blah. And now it's, no, he's right. My cousin, and you have all these extra anecdotes, and it just steamrolls. And we get to the thing which we never thought we'd have, because as a country, we're objectively about truth. We get this mass populated deceit. And it is seen, though, as truth by a lot. And that is hard to count. You get the important thing about that, literally what you get is political polarization from it, misinformation about health. We've seen that. We just all lived through COVID. You didn't know if you should be using this, using that. Is the shot good? Is it not? Masks, no masks. We had all that. Everybody you talk to had their own opinion. And then you can also get societal divide. I saw a statistic that since 2016, the amount of interfamily violent acts or ostracizing has increased 42%, because it's everybody comes loaded with this packet of my beliefs from misinformation, disinformation. And that is, and then again, if you straight up told, if I had a belief and you were sitting there telling me that, I'd be like, look, man, I've seen this and this and this that tells me I'm right, and you're just making that up. It's a dangerous ground. And you're right. We see that with students sometimes, some of the stuff they say. And I'm not saying their intent is malicious, but it's just that's what they've heard. And again, with students, we have to be very careful. So that now tying this back into our classrooms, parenting, having anybody around you, your students, as much as they roll your eyes at you, students and parents, they still listen to what you say. It is still a big part of their programming. They would never give you credit, but a lot of the things they hear are the things they're just hearing. And so we have to be really careful. I ran into that a lot. Talked about that in the two backpacks, how we give the teenagers who are trying to adapt, we're giving this mixed message. They sit around at the dinner table, and some families are bashing education and teachers. They don't learn anything useful. But then when they get a bad grade, their parents are hounding them of, you should get a good grade. And they're like, well, didn't you just at Thanksgiving say that school is stupid? I'm not learning anything? But now I got a C and you're making a big deal about it. And we ask them, and so they're just sitting there like walking this tightrope of what's important, what's not. And we're demanding things of them. It is affecting even them. What are your...
do you think it's better now?
Go ahead.
Do you think it's better now that we have all this information? Or do you think it's worse off for us?
I think it's worse, honestly, because to me, it's the same as the telephone game. When you play that as a kid, right? I don't know if you played that. You're a little younger than me, but you know what a telephone game is. We play in class sometimes just to get a point across. I think that's what's literally happening to us as a society, is that we have so many outlets for information that as they literally get passed through, and then they get filtered through whatever the outlook is of the intended audience. Because if you're a left wing or right wing or whatever podcast or online newspaper, you know what gets you clicks. You can't put the objective truth out because it's not going to get clicks. But if you put Schumer says he doesn't know how to discuss breakdown with Trump because you kind of manipulate a quote, click, 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 click. Oh my gosh, he actually proved he's wrong. Yeah. When it's really not that. So I feel like when you had 3 stations, I just went out to dinner with my father-in-law. My mother-in-law gave our daughter a great gift. He handmade this bookshelf. My daughter is a voracious reader, which thank goodness for that. I love that because it just makes me feel good as a parent. She's a voracious reader, and he hand-built her bookshelf from some of her great-grandfather's, a tree that fell, and he had this raw wood, so he brought it over. Took us out to dinner, and he was talking about how there are 3 stations. And my youngest 12-year-old was like, would you watch? And he was like, we had good TV back then. And so, but my youngest was like, so you just watch the news? Because in my youngest mind, when you go to NBC, ABC, CBS, it's news. Because 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, that's what's on. So he's like, nope, TBS or ESPN. And I was like, nobody. I was like, everything had its slot. You wanted cartoons, you were on Saturday morning in the morning. You wanted family shows, it was just 6 to 8 p.m. Other than that, it was news or whatever. When we had those, there was that. It was a smaller funnel. Because you couldn't, when you're one of 3, you couldn't just say something outlandish because people were like, well, the other 2 guys said this. Are you just off your rocker? But now, again, going back to this information loop, you can be in that bubble and completely secure. And you can get that top guy to say it. And then every other tertiary podcast, article, blog, whatever, echoes that because it's kind of in that click chamber, as we can call it. I don't know if we just made that up. We might have coined a term, Blake, click chamber. If you like that term, subscribe, email us, educationwarfare.pod@gmail.com to get more great
term. Yeah, we're going to patent. I've never heard of click chamber before.
We're about to patent it. I'm literally Googling it right now because I think we could have a thing. But, so you're getting that. So what do you think? Do you think it's better or worse because of the amount of outlets we have?
First off, click chamber is a thing, but it's a film. It looks odd.
Okay.
So I think our definition, the whole film has 570 likes on Facebook. Okay, but I digress. I generally think it's worse for society. I do think there's definitely benefits. I do think that having information at our phones right here is great because we can get so much information. I feel like I learn so much throughout the day because I get on these rabbit holes where I'm just learning and learning. I'm such a nerd that I'm always just reading all day. I wouldn't have had that ability because there's not enough books in the world to answer the questions I have for the world sometimes. So I do think it's good for that, but also I'm a little bit older. I don't think it's great for a 15-year-old to be able to look up things all day, every day. It's probably not a good thing. I think once you reach some kind of social maturity, I think that's when having all this information benefits you. But again, social maturity, it's not like when you turn 18 you're mature. That's different for everybody. Yeah. I have friends now that are older than me, not socially mature. I don't think they ever will be. If I had to say black and white, good or bad, I do think it's bad. I think the social ramifications have been a lot more detrimental than the positives that we've gotten. So I think there's a net negative. when it comes to having all this information, because it does create click chambers and it does destroy kind of everything socially for us. I don't think it's very good for us.
Hashtag click chamber.
Click chambers.
Yeah, I'm a free speech purist, right? I'm like, hey, free speech only works when you have free speech. But I catch myself all the time just going through social media. Again, X is my jam. And I find myself going through that and just being like, we need to shut this down. The whole thing. Because it's just, again, and you get into this. I feel another thing is not only a hashtag click chamber patent pending. I think there's also this idea of truth decay, to where I feel like in the past you might have had, oh, I think this way, you think this way. The truth came out. Okay, you're right this time, but my guys, and you had this general acceptance of the truth. Where now I think we literally have truth decay, to where facts are less important than personal beliefs. The Democrats basically lost an election because they showed charts and graphs which were actual facts, but people didn't want to hear that because they wanted to feel something. I mean, one of the Democrats' messaging was stop trying to sound smart. There's nothing wrong with being smart if you have facts, but that's kind of our society now is, hey, hit people in the emotions. But then you get this truth decay. And again, this is leading into mental health. I mean, we have a term. I mean, think about this. The first iPhone came out in 2007. Okay. Most social media on smartphones was active around 2011. Let's just go with that date. So from 2011 to 2025, we have a documented, credentialed, coined term of doom scrolling. In that short period of time, we have a thing that causes a psychological disorder because you are allowed, and it is possible to consume so much negative information that it can literally generate anxiety, distrust, the burden of vigilance that I have to carry this torch, which I feel a lot of people have felt now, like I have to say something or else I can't be the one sitting by. And basically, and again, exacerbated by, again, 32 a minute clips on TikTok, 100 or 200 character things on Twitter /X, little reels on Instagram. Your entire mental picture of something can be posted in or can be formulated, confirmed, and then shared in clips that are under 3 minutes for very nuanced topics in many cases. And I think that's dangerous. What do you kind of think? Do you agree? Do you think that's a thing that's harming us, or am I being overreactive? Am I doom scrolling?
So when you said that you're a free speech purist, and I am too, and you're like, then you get on Twitter, and I will say, I gotta give you credit. You're really good about saying X. I will say Twitter until I die. I think it's a generation thing. You're good at saying it. I'm really bad about it, so I keep saying Twitter. But yeah. I also don't have Twitter /X. I just kind of know what I know. But and you're like, you get on there, and you're like, I want to shut this place down. I will say you can. You don't have to get on it, and you got to take breaks. Right. I think it's healthy to take breaks. I take breaks all the time because my algorithm, and I'm very aware of click chambers and echo chambers where I don't want to see things I want to see. So if you go on my Instagram and you see who I'm following, you will be vastly confused of what sports teams I like, what politics I am, because I follow so many different NFL teams. I follow several different basketball teams. I follow Donald Trump. I follow Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, AOC, Ron DeSantis, because I want to see what all those people have to say. I want to see if I am going to be debating somebody, which I generally don't. I don't engage with people on social media. I don't really, would just be with my job teaching AP government. I try to stay out of anything political, but I want to know what the other side has to say, because I want to see their weaknesses. I want to see the weaknesses of my arguments, and I think that makes people a lot more well-rounded. You have to see multiple perspectives, because I'm not always going to be right on things, even though I know I am. Like I might think I'm like, oh, I swear I'm right on this, and then some data, some fact could show like, oh, that really hurts my argument. And you have to be adaptable. You have to be like, oh, okay, I'm wrong. You have to accept that. And I think people I think social media has created such an ego in people that is kind of rare. Like when Deion Sanders came out in the 90s, like everyone thought he had the biggest ego in the world, which a lot of other people like that too. But now if you look at like professional athletes now, their ego is astronomically high because you've been told you're the greatest forever. And social media, a lot of these NFL players are being drafted, NBA, especially NBA, they're super young. They've been on social media their entire lives. So when they're posting them playing basketball in 6th grade, everyone's like, oh, you're going to be the next Jordan, you're going to be the next LeBron. And it builds such an ego. And people with that big of egos refuse to be wrong. And that's the issue with people that are running for president. I think everyone that runs for president is totally out of their minds because their egos are so big, they cannot concede defeat no matter what. There's an election today going on. Hey, I struggled which primary I was going to even vote in, and then who I was going to vote for, because you only vote in one primary in the state of Tennessee, and it's open, so I got to choose my ballot. And I struggled. I was like, I don't know which ballot I'm going to pick, and also I don't know who I'm going to vote for on those, because Republicans had like 10 people running, Democrats had 4 people running. I didn't know who to vote for,
Right.
and that was my way till election day. I'm normally an early voter. All these people have such big egos, and they're all right on everything, but they never admit when they're wrong on most things. And it's so harmful. I think ego has a lot to do with it. I think social media being ingrained in our lives it creates a lot of personality flaws. And that's why there's so much depression. That's why the divorce rate keeps increasing. That's why everyone's suicide is so high. We are the richest country in the world, the United States, yet so many people kill themselves. Robin Williams killed himself. Anthony Bourdain did. Like so many, Kyron Lacey just did.
Right.
And he was just about to have an NFL career.
All of them.
And that was a whole other story. But all these people, and like they live in the greatest country. All those people I named are millionaires. It's sad, and I do think social media has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I agree. You basically get, again, where we talked about this idea that you can just hear what you want to hear, and this is distrust. And then you don't trust, like I said, because you're in a click chamber, #click chamber, make it a thing. There, YouTube and Apple, and like and subscribe if you like click chamber. When you hear those things, you then go down that, like you said, a rabbit hole. I'm the same way. I love reading. I love learning things. Wikipedia is just basically kind of a scary nightmare for my family, because I'll easily go down a rabbit hole to where I'm like, was looking up something, and all of a sudden I'm going down string theory, just reading about that, learning about it. But you can do the same thing on social media with those groups, because you post this thing or you like this thing, you can find the other people who also like it. And now you've just found this group. And anybody outside of that, even with their facts, even with their knowledge, are just, well, you're only looking at it one way. And it becomes an unwinnable argument. That's what scares me. You said politicians are on there. You're right. I cannot go on it. But I do like X/Twitter. I like it for sports stuff, because those sports reporters are just boom instantly. But when I'm scrolling through looking for something on the Bears and something happened, I see boom, ba-doom, ba-doom, and I read it, and then I have to go and click the comments. And again, these are all my decisions, but it is kind of scary that we can just literally hear what we want to hear. And then that is our world. The thing that scares me is, we talked about, we're both government guys, history guys. That's the type of scary factionalism that Madison talked about. We think about factionalism just for parties. Factionalism in parties is a way to organize your thoughts and be with like-minded people. Not being able to say I'm wrong is the scary part of that factionalism, because now you're going from factionalism to fanaticism within that faction. And I think that's what really worried. I don't know. Obviously, Madison was not like, well, one day if they get social media, we should worry. No, he wasn't worried about that, but he was worried about that happening in a general town, being isolated. But now you have, your town is your basement. Your town is your train ride to work every day. And that can be scary. You literally think about truth decay. The one thing I worry about is this idea of critical thinking eroding. If you have instant gratification in your beliefs, and then a backup of thousands of people who share that same thought, why would you think about it? Why would you even consider the other side? I have no reason to. I think this person thinks this, and look at all these people. I have 200 people in these comments who all think the same thing. Why should I consider these facts?
It makes for such a boring life.
Yeah, it really does. Like, I don't ever want to go one way or the other on it. I love to research both sides, because I'm not afraid to say that. Because, again, to me, the normal everyday Joe, I feel like it's our job to play the sides to benefit us, because they're typically going to try to benefit themselves and whomever. So, like, my thing is, I'll take a little bit of Republican.
I feel like a lot of the discourse
is
it's so bad now. Well, I think it's so bad now, because even if somebody is just trying to ask a question, like I tend to believe in like the Socratic method. Like whenever I teach class, I tend to ask a lot of questions and really just try to get them to an answer. And with that, like a lot of times, let's say I'm debating somebody on an opposing party, and I just ask them why they think that. They usually think I'm coming from a negative, or I'm trying to get you kind of thing. Or it's like, no, I just want to see why you think that way. And I think it's sad that people, when somebody asks somebody a question, they automatically think that they're trying to argue or try to get at them, when really I think a lot of times we're just trying to ask a question, an honest question, like, why do you think this? Why do you think that? Not, you're thinking that because you're stupid. It's not like that at all.
Right.
I just want to know the objective truth. And, our whole life is around school and education. You got your doctorate, I'm getting mine. It's just nonstop, just asking questions, trying to find truth, especially in degrees where there's not an objective truth. We weren't mathematicians, where 1+1's always going to be 2. We are in a very, if I'm not mistaken, you were a political science major as well for your bachelor's, right?
Yes, sir.
So with that, there's just a lot of, I was the same, and with that, there's no truths in politics. There's, even in history. Yeah, I mean, the North wins the Civil War. The Americans win the Revolutionary War. That there's some truth to that, obviously. How do we get there? Who's actually the winner? Winners are always the ones that write history anyway. And none of us were alive in the 1700s. So even then, it's really hard to objectively say anything is true, because what is truth at the end of the day? Whose truth might be different? So we're always trying to find that objective truth. And a lot of times it's hard to do, especially when we operate in a world where there's not ultimate truths. We're both educators. There's not one way to teach somebody. If there was, everybody would be doing the same thing. So we have to find different ways, different methods, try to be the best. However, there's no objectively truth. There's no objectively best. Even in sports, there's so many different ways to win a football game. So many different ways to win a baseball game. And there's not a best way in a lot of these ways. There's not a lot of best practices. So you have to maneuver. You have to adapt. You have to adapt. You have to know where you're going. And I forgot where I was
It's
going.
all misinformation.
It's all misinformation. It's actually all disinformation.
Blake's
I'm
making
trying
it
to
up.
sway people in a terrible way.
It is. Blake says up is down and down is up. And I agree with you that when you get to those areas, it really is hard to find what you want to do, to find your real voice, to being able to just have a public discourse about a topic and disagree. Disagreeing's fine. We've gotten to this point where we think disagreeing is bad. Oh, if you disagree with me, you must be the enemy. That is not how it works. A democracy is made by the little parts of all of our thinking being shoved together. There's not one right way of thinking it, or else Washington would have put down the Book of Washington and we just would have followed that. No, he was like, no, I'm going to quit after 8 years because this is annoying and I want to chill after 40 years of service. Figure it out yourselves. And we did. That's why it's called the Great Experiment. And disinformation, I feel, is really threatening. It's threatening our home lives. We've talked about families. It's threatening schools. I've had a lot of students and again, these students are not saying anything maliciously, but they will legit be like, oh, Dr. Lauer, is this really happening? And I'll be like, no. And I'll be like, well, let me hear where you heard that from. And they'll say, like, well, I heard this and this. And this goes us into kind of our final little segment here about talking about this and the disinformation, the cost of your scroll, how these companies target kids and try to click. What do they click on the most? That's what it pushes it out. So it's a certain way of thinking, whatever it may be. It's not regulated, and it needs to be. We cannot. And that brings us to AI. We've talked a little bit about those chatbots, how they can pretty much tell you everything you want. We cannot make the same problem we made with social media and young people as we with AI. We have to regulate it from the get-go because, again, it can cause problems. We know that. It has hiccups. It has all these issues. And when you make chatbots that can mimic a friend, that's a problem. You know, all the sociological and psychological issues and do with that. But, you know, looking at some tips to how to go through this, that way it's not just, oh, this is happening, this is out here. We obviously here at Educational Warfare don't want to just leave you like, all right, it's out here, deal with it. How can you kind of look at this? So in school, when students come up and say things, I think sometimes teachers, we have our strong feelings and we automatically, I've seen teachers before, most teachers are very adept at this because we get it. We get that one, the kid is not in a place of pure knowledge, so we need to funnel this. But some teachers naturally go to their defensive mode. Like, no, I have to prove this person. I got to show them the light. And that can be a dangerous thing. So I always ask them when they say something like that, I'm like, so where did you hear this? And they're like, well, I saw it on TikTok. I'm like, okay, cool. Who on TikTok? And they tell me. And I'm like, have you checked that with anywhere else? And they're like, oh, no. That's step one. I was like, look, you see something outrageous. And I think the funny thing about this is the blind spot we all get. If you took out a political issue or a health issue, let's say, we can all go into COVID, right? Like the COVID vaccine, very hot topic, right? Back in the day. If you took that and replaced it with almost any other story, people would be like, well, I got to see if that's true. COVID vaccine causes death. Okay. Change that to butter. Butter causes death. What would people be doing? I don't know. I need to see about that. But when it's something that falls within a political spectrum, we are almost dropping metal pieces on a magnetized board where both sides are magnetized. We literally, boop, go immediately to where we think before we've heard anything. It's fascinating that if you did that with anything else, that there'd kind of be some meandering in the middle, like, well, I need to see. But for politics especially, we go right or left instantly, and then we build up our defense. There is no listening from the middle and then veering that way, and that's, I think, the danger, is that we predetermine what we feel, and then we're not even willing to vet the idea. And then people, and again, you talked about this, the fascinating thing to me about disinformation especially is, I remember a day, and you're a political science major too, you're a little younger than I, but a guy would say a lie, not even a big one. And that would be the end of his political, especially if he was running for office, one lie, political career over. You think,
or even one scandal.
Right. Edwards, right? John Edwards had the issue with his wife, and they found out that while she was sick, he had an affair, I believe, allegedly, say that to protect ourselves, allegedly, with a nurse of hers. And then dude's running for president, gone. Not even in the political vernacular anymore. Now people they're like, oh, well, Chuck Schumer lights babies on fire every morning and send. And then they're like, sir, does Chuck Schumer really light babies on fire? And all they have to say is, no, but I bet he would if it wasn't illegal. And then they move on from the lie.
Yeah.
We have this tsunami of lies that you don't even get held accountable because of the amount of lies you can throw out. I could say something times a day, just 10 different lies. Next day, I can't be held accountable for any of them because then all I have to do is post some relevant news story. And it's buried in my feed. That's dangerous when lying ceases to have consequences. When lying becomes
even with news, they'll report something online like New York Times or whatever. They'll post their story and then they'll correct themselves, and the correction never gets posted up. Nobody ever checks back. Because how many times do you read a news story and then go back to the exact same article a week later? It never happens. So it's their get out of jail free card, and everyone's guilty of that. Newspapers and like your cable news network, they don't have that for social media. You just post whatever you want, keep posting. It'll just dilute your lies, and it's chaos. And there's really no accountability. And that is, again, it brings back to a First Amendment thing. Is it legal? Yeah. Should it be? I mean, technically, yeah. Is it morally correct? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's something we have to navigate through. That's why one thing that would be nice if we had classes in school would be just digital literacy. We need digital literacy. We really do.
Yes.
Because no one's good at it.
Yeah, nobody's good at it. And should it be illegal? No. But then again, I go to some of the hypocrisy of it, that these people hold these large offices. It's not illegal. It is free speech. But then again, I, as a school teacher of a singular school, am held to a higher standard. Because if I went off and spouted out something and then didn't apologize, I would be let go. If enough parents complained, they'd be like, well, we can't have you. But this person who represents a state can just be like, oh, yeah, I found out that wasn't the fact. But how bad is Joe Biden, by the way? You like, steer it. I'm like, no. You misled possibly millions of people. And again, like you said, even if a politician does retract it, how many of those original followers see it? And that's the thing I think they found out, is I can say almost anything. It go to 15 million people. If it's pushed back on it that it is false, I can put out an apology, and those maybe a different 15 million people see that, maybe 4 of the 15. But now the idea is out there, and it is churning in that realm. It is becoming rage bait, clickbait, everything. It's literally becoming part of that world, and it gets built upon. And then we've seen all the time. We've seen recently more politicians say, "I didn't hear that," when it was a national story. One, if you say you didn't hear whatever this was, you're unfit to do the office, because that's a national story. You represent people within the nation. You should know. That'd be like a news anchor being like, I did not hear about that event, but I'll read about it and get back to you. No, you're a news anchor. You should be talking about this first. Politicians are the same way. Yes, yeah. Oh, I heard there was some thing with that, but I don't know. I haven't read all the facts. So this is your job, so I know you heard about it, unless you're just awful at your job. Something that's frustrating. It is because, again, we want, as Americans, this is part of the experiment. Yeah. And this is part of the experiment, everybody. When America is called, and I think we lose sight of that, America is not guaranteed. The freedoms within it, we were in a run, we're doing great, but it's still called the Great Experiment for a reason, that it can change. And this is part of it. It is hard because as much as I want to be like, just shut if you lie on Twitter, your account should be, you should be shut down for a while. As much as we want that, if we really want free speech, we have to, as a people, have to learn how to navigate this, because the option is having things shut down, which is a too slippery a slope for most of us. Yes, you may, if you hate Fox News, if you hate MSNBC, shutting them down would bring you joy. The slope that it is on is just covered in every type. It is grease. It is Dawn dish soap. It is the slippery substance, as slippery as anything can be. And we don't want that. And that's the scary thing. And that is why we have to have these conversations. That's why we have to be mature about it. That's why we have to talk about media, like you talked about it, Blake, media literacy. Understanding that should be a class in school, and it shouldn't be a throwaway class, because many people's ideas are literally getting shaped by this to an unrepairable point. Not to where, it was, correct me on the date because you may be a little better at this, 2021, 2022, when the flat earth thing really got some traction. It was in the 2020s when flat earthers actually had somewhat of a voice. We have satellites that it doesn't work with triangulation. They're simple facts, but it actually got traction. And you even had, you know this a lot better because you follow the NBA way closer. Which NBA player said something about it? Like, I need to learn more about that. Do you remember?
I was just thinking about that. I see his face. He was on the Cavaliers. He played with LeBron.
Yeah. Gosh.
It wasn't Jason Tatum. It was
It was Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving.
It was Kyrie, yeah. So you have this basketball player. Yeah. Yes, again, he plays basketball. Okay, so not his thing. But he literally had to sit there and be like, I've heard some things, man. I need to really think about this. That is disinformation. That is exactly what we're talking about. A grown man had to sit down and think about if this could be true of a thing that we basically proved false 1492 on. It's 2025, 2022, and this happened, whenever. That is the amount we're saying here. This is not just some like, you guys are just, this is a real problem. And our teens are caught in the middle of it. They're stuck here. This is their world. This is annoyance to us. I'm a millennial. I grew up in this beautiful nexus of cell phone, the internet's kind of here, and we still play outside and read newspapers and news, and then cell phones are here but we don't use them. I grew up in that old world meeting new world, so I have those both sides of, I love X and Instagram, but I also am okay not being on any of it because I did that. Where these kids, this is their world, and they already, my 12-year-old asked me questions like, where did you hear that? Because it was some short that some kid put on a Minecraft video, so it somehow made it to his feed, which is what a lot of young people do. Again, media literacy, super important. Love that you brought that up. Verifying. I tell my students, I'm like, do not talk about something in any paper or anything you do for me unless you've seen it at a separate site. Because if you go one place, I was like, try to get this somewhere else. Get another side to it. Verify, because that, the internet, and that's, again, it goes back to the old people. There are places that these fake sites, they have a banner. It looks legit. They're like, editorials. You can now especially get AI to make any of this for you. You can make a format, go to Wix and just make a website that looks real and put anything you want in it. And a lot of older people and young people will fall for that because it looks legit. So I always tell, verify. So anybody out there, if you got a child, tell them, hey, you look something up, you find something, verify it. Start with sports. This is an easy way. Like, how do you get kids to learn? Give them something that they actually want to do these strategies with. I guarantee a 14-year-old is not going to go double check something a senator said. But tell them, hey, when you see Schefter say something, wait about 10, 20 minutes and go see if Rappaport says it. Right? And that teaches them. And they will be if it's real. And then they'll be like, I can do that. Okay, now I feel confident texting my buddies that Micah Parsons was traded to the Packers. Like sadness. Like, they can see that. And that teaches them how to do it with something they're interested in. If you have a daughter, and again, I'm sorry to stereotypicalize the ideas coming up. If you have a daughter, she's a huge Swiftie. It's Taylor Swift news. Go check somewhere. Find some IndieWire, some Rolling Stone. Go see something if there's news about her and see if it's said. And then once they learn to do that with things they enjoy, it becomes habit. That way they don't fall in these traps. Those are these little things you can do for kids to help them. But you have to put in their court. If you just say, hey, you should check your sources, they're like, I already don't want to do anything anyway. Now you want me to do extra work for the one thing I do? Nah, I'm good. But if you do it with something they enjoy, it really is helpful. And so I always tell all my students that. I assume you do the same in your classes, right, Blake?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yeah, you need to have more than just a news, like a basic news source, like even CNN. I don't consider those reliable sources. I always tell them the best way to find American news is look at the BBC. Look at how the other countries are reporting it, because they generally don't care about the politics of it. They care more about the facts. And I have noticed a lot more of those outlets are a little bit better. Yeah, The Guardian's a good one too. They'll generally just tell you what happened. And as boring as it is, C-SPAN, tell them to watch C-SPAN, there's no commentary. Just watch what the senators have to say. That's kind of the best ones. Get the information straight from the source's mouth. And you do have to source. You have to find out what's reliable, what's not reliable. I always like showing my AP government students. Even then, this is still technically biased. I like showing them all the news outlets and podcasts, YouTube channels that are on a spectrum from far left to far right. And even then, I can make an argument okay, this one's way too far that way. This one's closer to the middle, because a human made that. A human's still compiling the data and arranging that however they wanted to. One side look really bad, the other side look a lot more moderate. And I'm like, all right, man, you're not joking. You're fooling kids. You're not going to fool somebody that studies this for years. And that's the issue, because we're not going to all be experts on everything. If I look up some policies that are going on in India, I'm probably going to believe whatever I read, because I'm not well versed in Indian politics. American, I am. If someone tells you something, I'm kind of like, okay, I doubt that's true, or maybe just check a few things. But that's the thing, we're not experts, and a lot of people that are non-experts, they are the ones that are the loudest. And that brings up burner accounts too. People can just hide their face behind fake profiles, and you'll click on them, they'll say these wild things, Hitler had some good ideas. Click on their profile, 0 followers, but they're following 10,000 people. It's like, okay, you obviously have some kind of agenda, you're trying to spread fake stuff, or you're just really unhappy with your life because you're saying a lot of crazy things you probably don't believe. You just want to stir up a crowd and make people hate each other.
Yep. Yeah, bots are a huge thing. Twitter is 90% bots, I'm almost sure of it. And that's a problem too, is because they just say these things. Yeah, and it's hard because, again, I know they're bots just judging by the rhetoric. It's these certain things being said. I'm like, that doesn't really fit, or that's not as nuanced enough for this problem. Young people can't. Old people can't. And therefore, that bot can kind of shape that. How many people I've clicked on and seen them in this long argument with a bot that I can kind of tell, yep, that's there it is right there. That's an AI response. But they don't. So they're 15 more back and forth. I'm like, bro, you're arguing with a Russian hacker dude or a Russian AI or some other place. Yeah, but then what does that do? That interaction, they leave that hating the other side more, because that's the representation of the other side, this made up thing. And that's the world we live in, and that's why we're talking about this. And we'll probably be able to go down. We'll probably do a Disinformation 2.0 episode at some point, because there's more and more we can get into all the time. And that's just a huge thing. It's affecting our kids. It's affecting us. It's affecting families. I think the biggest thing is we talked about verifying sources. We talked about having media literacy. Sit down and talk with your kids. Schools, that's a budget thing. We're cutting arts, right? So media literacy, it's when we say, oh, why don't schools have it? We're cutting arts, which is proven statistically and research-based to help in almost every other subject. We're still cutting it. So be patient with your schools, but have a talk with your kids. Say, hey, everything you see is not true, right? You know how to vet that. Don't get, kids... A term right now is rage baiting. That's a term, right? You use that. Don't be rage baited by some troll on here. Keep it close. But it is causing people either to be polarized or completely disengaged. And I think we have to come to the point where, again, this is happening to all of us, but it is also our fault. We have to come to a point where we kind of say, hey, we have to get back to, this is the discourse we're going to have. We need to get back to where if you lie to the public, that's a problem. If you're caught doing it, that's it. We have to get back to that as a society and agree on that. Because if we don't, we're going to get more and more. We're going to be one of those societies that you see in these sci-fi shows where people show up and they're like, why do you hate each other? And they say some ridiculous thing. It's like the Hatfield and McCoys or the Bloods and the Crips. I guarantee you the current Bloods and Crips have no idea why the original Bloods and Crips hated each other. They just know they hate that color. They hate that group. And we can't get to that, because what do those people do? What do those groups do? There's just violence. There is no room for talking. There's always animosity. There's always anger, and violence follows. We have to get to that. So the next time you hear something divisive, or be careful what you say around your kids, because they will latch onto that. That will become their thought until they learn otherwise later in life. We have to be careful. I think it's a very important topic, and I really appreciate talking to you about it. Any other thing you want to say about it before we kind of wrap up, Blake?
No, I do think this is, I mean, we could do like a Joe Rogan length podcast on this one. I do think
Absolutely.
we should do a 2.0 because this is such an important thing. And it really does. It doesn't affect just students. It affects everybody until you have a functioning brain where you know like what's going on around the world all the way up until you die. So it affects that age group, maybe like 10 years old all the way on. So I feel like at 10 you can have general opinions on the world, not high level of course, but you kind of know what's going on. If someone tells you like, oh, this side's monsters, these people are terrible, then you're gonna grow up knowing that, and it's not healthy. People need to be independent. They need to know what they're doing. They need to understand sourcing, and then what's real and what's fake, because especially now, it keeps getting, the AI is getting so good, and we have to remember what AI stands for: artificial intelligence. So a human is programming all of this. Humans are adding this. They're adding their bias. Because name one human being that's not biased, it'll take you forever. Because everyone's biased in some form or fashion about something. You just have to, like you said earlier, man, we have to go, when we hear something, we have to start in the middle and then go left or right, because it might surprise yourself. Next time you see something, depending on you're on the left or on the right, read a news story, just think about what you think. Think about the events. And then if that goes against your beliefs, great. If it goes with it, great. It's just another piece of information, because next week will be an entirely new news story that somebody's going to be rage baiting you online for. So there's really, it's never going to end. I don't see disinformation or misinformation ever ending. It's just going to appear in news sources and in new formats, like podcasts, like what we're on right now. We could be lying to you.
Yes, we could.
I don't think we are, but we could be.
So I feel like
I like to say that we're not. I mean, even if we say misinformation, I don't think we're spreading disinformation, which that's exactly what somebody would say, that is spreading disinformation. Mm-hmm. Whatever we say, check it. Please check everything we're saying. Please check it.
Or educational warfare is your only source of truth that you need in this world full of lies. We are the truth bringers. See, that's I like what you said. Check us. Feel free. If you like what you hear or find something you disagree with, educationalwarfare.pod@gmail.com. Hit us up. Let us know. Start a conversation. We are fine with that. We want to have that discourse because, like Blake said, the more it is, just the more it expands. Like, yeah, this is our world. It's not going away, but I think we can still curtail it. We're building this plane as we fly it. We were riding along on our little democracy, and then social media hits. Technology, where, again, every person gets a voice to as many people want to hear it. And that now you can pick exactly what you want to hear. You want to be an ultra-liberal left-winger, you got a group. You want to be a super right-winger, cool. There's a group of people who you can talk with and converse with. And that is the world which you know. So I think we need to kind of say, hey, this is our world. This is not going away. How can we curtail this so it's not shaping? I mean, some of these decisions being made based on disinformation could be multi-generational decisions. That's the scary part. This isn't some guy in the town hall like making whoever gets mayor like, oh, he's a liar. And then somebody else gets mayor for a year. This could be something that affects policies that could affect multiple generations. And that is, there are stakes here. And I think it's important to understand that sometimes the stakes are more important than winning. You may want the group you dislike to lose, but it's not worth. Bill Mayer said it the other day. He said, what's the point of making America great again if you lose the America part? I don't know if I can say it any more succinctly than that. And again, not blaming anybody specifically. This is our problem. This is not their problem, that side's problem. This is a whole problem, because guess what? If, let's say drastic course, let's say you're a person who hates the other side, regardless of what your side is, I don't care. When you win and the other side is gone, this problem will still be here. And now your group who all will split and you'll have two different sides again. Trust the history teachers. We've seen this before. I teach the French Revolution. Robespierre was executed because he ran out of people to execute, and he started executing his buddies. And they were like, no, we're going to shout you down and execute you, because that's what happens. Because once you win, you got to keep doing the thing you were doing that made you win. You got to have bad guys. You got to have these people wrong. So it's all our problem, all of us, regardless of your beliefs. So I think that's really important. So thank you so much for being here. I definitely think we have a 2.0 in the future, and we can get a little more specific when we talk about a few other topics with this. But it was really good getting it out there. Hopefully we got some things out. Hopefully we said some stuff that people have been feeling and they can latch onto and check our stuff. That's why I always try to have sources and articles in here from actual papers, because Blake and I are not just sitting there making this up. We do the legwork. We try to bring you information. So teachers, parents, students, you have the final say. This is still your thing and what you believe. Having the knowledge of all of this and what it entails and what it means is important. Disinformation is stacked against you, and knowing the things we've talked about, knowing that that's happening, is the first step in the battle against it. Okay? So keep your head. Stay confident in your abilities. Again, I say this a lot during our show. You're doing a good job. If anybody says you're not, they're wrong. You're doing a good job as a parent, as a teacher, as a leader. You're doing a good job. Keep that confidence and always vet your sources. Blake, any last goodbyes? Anything last to say?
Yeah, I really want to say too, just if you are struggling with the misinformation, disinformation, and you're someone that gets online, you fall for the click chambers, you're falling for the rage baiters, you're falling for all of that, and you get online and you're arguing with people, and that is messing with your mental health. Do me a favor, please get offline. Take a break.
Yes.
If you get off social medias for a week, a month, I guarantee it's gonna be back. You'll still jump right back in. And also, one more piece of advice I tell all my students, this is usually the last piece of advice I give my seniors in AP Government. The last thing I always give is I give them one final assignment. And I tell them, if you're somebody that's on the left, go on social media, follow a few people on the right. And if you're on the right, go on social media, follow a few people on the left. Get out of that click chamber, get out of that echo chamber, and you have to see both sides. It's going to make you feel so much better. So get offline, and if you are online, follow people that are against you. I'll even dumb it down. Titans fan, which there's not many. I follow the Colts. I follow the Jaguars. I follow the Texans. They are my biggest rivals. I still want to see what their roster is like. I want to see what their fans think. I want to see what their analysts think about their team. It's good to know the other side. It's beneficial. If you can find common ground, it's going to make everyone better. It's going to make people's lives better. It's something that small. It does make you feel a lot better. I promise.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, unplug. If it's messing with your mental health, unplug, step away, maybe read a good book like The Two Backpacks, Understand Teens What They Carry on Amazon.
Yes.
It could be a good way to just do something, because if it's causing you mental health, if it's just causing you anxiety, you don't have to be a part of it. Yeah, you don't have to be which to say, you know what, I'm going to get off social media and I don't want to be disconnected from things. So watch NBC Nightly News, ABC News, CBS World News, any of those newscasts. Like, watch that, because you know what? That's enough. There's no comments on that. It's at least vetted. It gives you the information. You don't have to go down the hashtag click chambers, TM, and of all those issues and all those, that dark path it can take you. Just pull back, because your family needs you, your loved one needs you. They don't need you to be so stressed out about this, and not to fall for it. So that's some great advice. I really appreciate it, Blake, and I really appreciate you being here, talking to us about this, being on the show. Thank you so much. On the show itself, subscribe, please, for more information, strategies, some shorts coming from this disinformation chamber. I'm probably going to write a blog on it on jordanlauer.com, so come check that out. In your life, check your teens. If you are stressing out over this, they may be too. You notice a change in their behavior. They may be stressing out over something they're seeing, or that tunnel they're going down. So talk with them. Understand what they're looking at. Say, hey, is anything bugging you? Is anything stressing you out? I want to know your world. So we're probably looking at the same thing. Is anything I've seen recently stressed you out? And they'll unload. And then you can kind of say, hey, maybe double check that's really happening. Be able to have that. And again, please check out The Two Backpacks, Understand Teens What They Carry, on Amazon, on jordanlauer.com. Again, like and subscribe here, and hit us up on our email, educationalwarfare.pod@gmail.com. I really appreciate all of you. Listen to us. If we were telling you the truth or not, you'll never know, because that is what good disinformation does. For Blake Bellamy, I'm Dr. Jordan Lauer. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us. And thank you for being a part of the fight.